All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 10th edition of Success Spotlight. We have officially hit double digits for the amount of webinars that we've done, which is super exciting. But today we surely have a great episode lined up for you. So appreciate you all for registering and attending here live. My name is Nolan Duda, Client Experience Manager for IdealTraits. And I think it's important to say real quick, this, of course, is the highest registered for, and it most likely is going to be the highest attended for, too, as well. So over the next 45 minutes, if you hadn't taken out your notes or your notepad or whatever you take notes on, make sure to do so, because over the next 45 minutes, the value that you're going to be able to get from this session is going to be, very, very good and better than really anywhere else you can get it. So first, we'll introduce our guests. So today we have Jeremy Olson and Kristen Isaacson. So Kristen is the team coach and general manager for the Olson agency and also is the co-founder of RPOA. She has 20 years of sales experience going through a couple of different companies, I'm sure you've heard of, Nordstrom's, MetLife, US Bank, and also is a certified Dale Carnegie facilitator too as well. So Jeremy has been in insurance, and I'm sure I'll talk a little bit more about it, dating back to his grandfather, to his father, and now started his scratch agency back in 1997, is the co-founder of RPOA too as well, of course. And was received the Hall of Fame Allstate recognition in 2022 and received the Dick McKenna Award here in 2024, which of course is known as one of the highest achievements that you can receive as an Allstate agent. So over their time involved with the Olson agency, the agency started scratch, as I mentioned, back in 1997, and has now reached $75 million in premium, and they have 50 staff members that are licensed, working across their locations there in Washington, and of course remotely, which I'm sure we'll get into too. But Kristen and Jeremy, I appreciate your patience as I got through that. I know it was a little bit choppy, but you both are fantastic. I very much appreciate the time that you're putting into this, and know how busy you both are running the agency and RPOA and amongst all the other things that you guys do. So appreciate you taking the time to be here for the next 45 minutes to share what has led you guys to be so successful in your hiring. So thank you both for being here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, for sure. We were excited when you asked us on this one, because IdealTraits is without a doubt just one of the most important things that we do in the agency. We use it every single day. Recognize a lot of the names on here. Nolan, I was just going to ask you real quick, do they have the ability on this to chat, or will we see that? Or
Yep. So for those of you that are on here, if you go to the Q&A section, you'll be able to ask questions live. And Jeremy, that's a really good point, because we do, we have our prepared questions to go through here, but we also want to hear from you all. And I'm sure Jeremy and Kristen will testament that too as well. But yes, they have the ability to go through the Q&A to ask questions, if that's what you were looking for, Jeremy.
Yeah, no, awesome. A lot of you have probably seen Kristen and I speak on these before, and we do like to be interactive, ask whatever is on your mind, and we will do our best to answer it.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I'm sure we'll get into, obviously everything that, makes up the Olson agency, as well as talk a little bit about RPOA. But Jeremy, if you want to talk a little bit more about, the start, right? You started scratch in 1997, and now you're at 75 million and having 50 staff members. So if you both want to sort of talk about the background of when everything sort of switched to the point where you have your processes and everything built out to get you to where you are today, and then we can jump right into the hiring if you want to start there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so like you said, I started scratch in 1997. Really a one-man show from a management perspective for probably the first 15 years or so. It was just me. I had 6 locations. I would drive around to each one, a lot of times all in the same day, wearing all the hats, the manager, trainer, coach, all that stuff. And it was probably about 10 years ago when Allstate came out with a significant increase in goals. Sure. And I just thought, it's time to take this to a different level. And I knew I needed help. I was really running thin when it came to, time. I was in all offices every day and talking to all employees. It was just getting to be too much. So that's when I first hired a person on my leadership team, Cameron, who's actually in the office today. He does a lot of the operational training. And then about 2 years later, that's when I met Kristen at Dale Carnegie, and just thought, I really needed that help with our soft skills, with how to talk to customers, how to talk to people, and just doing things the same way. So Kristen came on board almost 10 years ago, and has really made a significant difference in terms of our culture, our sales results, our growth. A lot of it, I would give Kristen a big thank you for.
Thanks. I think that it's been a very fun journey. When I first started with Jeremy, I really thought, what the heck am I doing? I loved the career that I had over at Dale Carnegie, and we were literally building the plane while we were trying to fly it, because he had a vision for what this role would do. But once I got in here, the synergy between the two of us and the things that we started to create together were like, wow, this is actually something really special. And I remember when I first got here, we had 18 team members total. And after we started implementing some changes, right when we first did, we lost half of our team. We lost 9 people. And so we had just, I think, started IdealTraits. I think Jeremy started IdealTraits as soon as it came out. But I think when we first started it, we were just looking for sales leaders because that sounded like the best, profile of somebody that would really do good in sales, right? A sales leader, somebody that would lead in sales. And so we were just trying to hire the title. And then we were stumped. Like, why aren't these people selling? It says they're a sales leader. And then we really dove deep and we started to understand like what these personality assessments were and how you needed different personalities to make a team function. And it really has been such a huge part of like growing our team, along with those systems and processes we started to implement, because you really can't hire good people unless you have a structure that will help support them, right? That's what everybody wants when they are in an interview. You say, what do you need to, what kind of environment do you need to make you successful? And the first thing they always say is, what kind of training do you have? And so I think, when you can get those good personalities in, you got to be able to have the system to support them.
And I think that's a huge piece of it. Before I went on this really big growth spurt and, started hiring to the level that we are today, I was like so many agents that I talk to every day, where I literally looked at IdealTraits as they're the assessment company. I just send out these assessments. They come back. If they're a sales leader, I hire them. If they're not a sales leader, closer, or a salesperson, I just throw the resume away and never talk to them. And it's only been in the past, 9-10 years that we really realize the power of what IdealTraits does.
Mm-hmm.
We use it not only in hiring. We'll talk a lot about this today, but not only in hiring, but with our current team members every single day. It's a big piece to how we coach people, how we talk to people, how we work with our team is based on their personalities. And like Kristen said, it really is just a puzzle. We're constantly putting together the right and the different personalities. So I've definitely learned a lot in the last 10 years on it.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And we'll certainly, I think one of the main things we'll focus on is the personality assessments that you guys have evaluated. It's like, hey, this is what we look for this type of role, and this is what we look for this role. And then really the beginning stages of a hiring process is getting in front of applicants. And of course, through IdealTraits, you're posting job ads and going through that. But for an agent out there that's not receiving enough applications on their job ad, right? They're not getting in front of enough candidates. When it comes to creating a job ad for you both, I mean, of course, there's tools within IdealTraits to help you, but what has the Olson agency done to help stand out amongst all of the other agencies that are out there that are hiring? Because we know that the landscape, of course, is super competitive these days. So when it comes to creating that job ad, what do you guys look to put into it to make it attractive, to look for those top performers before sending them through the assessment?
I'll let you take that
Yeah,
one.
I think first of all, like we started with just one ad, just a sales producer, and we weren't getting results. And so we ended up making 3 different ones. Because I think that you have to kind of appeal. Everybody's kind of like searching for something different.
Sure.
And we also added that we were hiring remote. So we have a remote ad, which we have different things on the remote ad of what we expect from people than we do on somebody that would be working in office. We have outside sales, which means that they're just working with leads. And then people that are doing a hybrid role, we call it inside sales, customer service and selling. So when we changed just having 3 different ads instead of just sales, that attracted different people. So we got more volume. And then I think that IdealTraits, Kelly at IdealTraits really helped us. I remember her when we were trying to really make our ads more exciting. She was asking questions like, what do you love? What do you think people would say about your culture? What do you love about your culture? And I remember writing emails about all the things that our team members said. In fact, I even did a poll in one of our team chats that just said, what do you love about working here? And I just sent that to her. So it was words from our team, not from us, that, like we could make it doctor it up as much as we wanted, but I want to know what the team members really say. So, and then she helped incorporate that into our ads as well.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, is really putting yourself in their shoes, of an applicant. What would I want to see on a job ad? What would I be looking for? So we spend a lot of time on that. You are selling your agency. Like, this is why you would want to work here. We've done a lot of extra stuff as well, in addition to just the ad. We hired a video crew to come out here for a couple of days. We filmed a very professional video of me sharing why I'm hiring, what the agency is about. We had team members on it. We had Kristen on it. We had other leaders on it. Just, again, selling them on the environment, the culture. That's what people are buying, and who they want to work for. They want to go to work for a company that has a good culture and that they would want to be a part of. So we do a ton of that stuff in addition to just the job ad.
And I will add one more thing about the ads is that I think a lot of people, when they're searching for jobs, there's a lot of scams out there with jobs. I mean, there's roles where people will say, I mean, my daughter's 25 and she just graduated from college last year. And I would say, why don't you go with, looking at this company? Or she would say, no, that those kind of jobs are just scams. Or she would send me something and say, does this look right? So I feel like the person that's looking for a job is very apprehensive about what's real and what's not. And so when you are looking at ads, like especially for sales roles, and you're touting that you can make a 6-figure income in these things, it looks like it may not be real. And I think that doing that video was something where we wanted to put a face to the words. And we wanted to show them that this environment was amazing and that it was very real. And we do some other things that we can talk about. But I think that that's one of the biggest obstacles that we have to overcome as business owners and managers, is the fact that, our person that we are looking for, especially someone who's really good, is going to have this intelligence, emotional intelligence of what's going on with job ads.
Yeah. So in addition to that initial video that they get, just kind of showcasing the whole agency, once they take the assessment, they actually get another video we have in the whole flow that I made, just kind of welcoming them, saying, hey, I understand you took the assessment. Here are the next steps. We're excited to talk to you. Just, again, putting a face to a name and making it seem real versus them just being a number. So we put a lot of effort into the experience that the prospect will have versus just, having them feel like a number. They're just going through the regular old interview process. We try to really stand out and make it very different for them.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think it's really important to note that second half too, because there are agents that are on here that may not be getting enough applications. So that personalization and adding that in can certainly help. But then also there's people that are getting applications, but they're not seeing a response from the candidates for whatever reason. So putting a face to the name, as you mentioned, Kristen, can really help with response rate. And we did receive an audience question here, Jeremy, Kristen. So they had asked if the video increased your ad response rate in terms of the amount of candidates you felt were responding to the application of what you're moving through the pipeline. So do you feel as if it sounds like you do?
Yeah, no, I do. And response rate is really everything. And that's something that we work on a lot. We actually have somebody on our team that does this full time for us. They monitor the account. They look at it every single day. One of the biggest errors, I think, and I've made it myself, is not calling the prospects right away. So every day I walk in, it's one of the first sites I go to. Normally on a given day, I'll have 15 or so people that actually clicked on the ad, and you see their name there, but there's no assessment result. What that means is they didn't complete the second part, and most don't. I would say out of 10 that click on the ad, 1 or 2 might actually take the assessment. So
Sure.
I'm always trying to work on those extra 8 or 9 because they might be good candidates. So we have Brandy on our team call them immediately. Hey, it looks like you were interested in our ad. What has you looking for a job? Blah blah blah. Very short, maybe 1 or 2 minute call, and then just reminding them, hey, not sure if you saw it, but there's a second part to this. There's a really neat assessment. You can talk a little bit about selling them on the assessment, but tells them to complete the assessment. So what that phone call does, again, it's 1 or 2 minutes, that takes our response rate from 10 to 15% to probably closer to 50%. So we get a lot of extra candidates that we would have otherwise not ever seen.
Yeah, and I think what the video did is it brought us a better quality of candidate. It was really funny. We put it on our LinkedIn pages. I put it on my Facebook page just to kind of like say, hey, I'm really proud of this.
Yeah.
And I had people reaching out to me like that I hadn't talked to in years saying, do you have a job available for me? It was just kind of funny, like ones that probably weren't the best fit, but I mean, it was just like it caught people's attention. But I think the quality that we're getting, and then with Brandy making that call, I think that's really super important because we've had a lot of like people who have done recruiting for us, and we just ended up taking most of it in-house. We'll still take people from recruiters if they have someone. We do work with a couple of them still, but I think that, sometimes they'll say things like, you got to get people fast, and you just got to get people fast. They're going to be hot and off the market. And so you don't have time for the assessment. And I don't agree with that. And I don't want to lower our standards because of that. We're not at the mercy of that. And so I think that having Brandy call people really solved for that piece. And I think it's just, once again, that trust piece where people aren't really bought into like the Olson agency until they talk to somebody from the Olson agency. Brandy's a very super pleasant person. She has been with us for 8 years now and knows exactly what we're looking for in a team member. And I think her just selling the assessment and saying it's something really cool that, when you go, that will be the next stage. Like we'll schedule an interview after we see that assessment taken. But we say it gives you a really cool assessment of what your personality would be specific to this role. And they share that with you in the interview. People get like excited about that. If you get a text that says the next step in the process is to take the assessment, please take that, and that will be the next interview. There's nothing really like appealing to that, right? And so having that real person say that and say it in a way that makes you think like, gosh, I really want to know what I test as, that's what gets people to do it.
Yeah. I think that's really good. And I mean, again, with how competitive it has been, I think it is good to be calling, email, and texting, but don't just text or just email, right? Throw in the call, make sure that it's personalized too as well, and utilize those resources that are within your IdealTraits account. But all right, perfect. I want to take a little bit of a step back to talk a little bit about licensed candidates versus unlicensed, as well as remote side of it too, because I know you guys have in-office employees and the remote, as you mentioned. So do you have a preference on licensed or unlicensed, or will you take both? Is it if they're working remotely, they have to be licensed before, or how do you guys go through that recruiting process?
Yeah, exactly that. So we have a team of, I think we're at 47, 48 right now. Exactly half are remote and out of state. And so what we've learned by going remote is that we only take licensed candidates when they're remote, when they're out of state. We just find it's easier that way versus having to start from ground zero and teach them insurance and our systems and all that. So we prefer just licensed for remote, but in office, we would take either. I would say probably the majority of our in-office hires have not been licensed before.
Yeah.
And I think that sales experience, like that's the thing that I look for with the remote hires. We want them to have that licensing. I also really look for, do you have remote experience? Because sometimes people are motivated to be remote for the wrong reasons. And we've been burned a little bit on that, where people want to be home so that they can go to their kids' soccer games and be the wrestling coach and do things where they think that remote is like that flexibility where you can just weave in and out of work. And that's not what it is. So we're pretty specific about like asking about their experience now and asking why remote. But the licensing just makes it so much faster out of state. But in office, if they don't have that license, what we're looking for is the sales experience. because we work so heavily with really using a sales process in this agency and
Yeah.
not just selling on price and just like trying to get the, quantity play and emailing out quotes. It really does take sales skills. So people really I feel like they really get what we're doing and they get our training a lot better if they have that experience.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's a good segue into now, once you have those candidates in front of you, they applied, you have the resume, you see that they're licensed, or maybe they have that experience. And then of course you transition into the assessment, it sounds, after Brandy gives them a call. So I know I mentioned that we were going to talk a little bit more about this, but with the different job response or different job responsibilities that you have with that inside sales versus the outside versus the remote, what positions or personality assessments do you recommend for each different role that you guys have?
I'll let you take.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of I hate being definitive because yes,
Sure.
we look at the assessment and there's certain ones that we just stay away from. For a sales role on either side, I'll probably stay away from a perfectionist just because they're very resistant to change. So once they set it, they don't want to change anything. And sometimes you have to change stuff. I'll stay away from engineers, probably
Sure.
researchers, things that are just probably less sales and more customer service oriented. So for the sales roles, but we have had some success on the inside team because they are doing customer service and sales, having some different personalities that you wouldn't think of, like organizer. We have a planner. We have
knowledgeable,
someone that's knowledgeable. We have a competitor. So I feel like on the inside team, we have the sales personalities, but we also have some of the customer service personalities that seem to work well. That organizer personality has kind of surprised me, but it's a pretty cool personality. We've had them work out pretty well.
Yeah.
They're very detail oriented, but then they're also very driven towards sales. And on the outside team, that motivation factor that Mara from IdealTraits always talks about, having it be, she says 60 or above. We stay pretty true to that. Every once in a while, I've fudged 50% on motivation. But we have more closers, sales leaders, salesperson, those quintessential sales personalities, a couple of persistents on our outside sales team.
Yep.
And I think that those work well. I would also say that the sales leader and closer work really well remote because they're very independent and persistent. They're very independent and very driven to just be focused. And so that seems to work out. I noticed our top people are those personalities.
Yeah. And I've said it before and I'll continue to say it. I am maybe biased, but I think persistent is the best IdealTraits person. That might just be me. So
well, I wonder who's a persistent in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, too, I think it's really crucial that whoever is doing the hiring and interviewing on your team and who's coaching your people, they've got to understand the different personalities. Kristen could literally rattle from 1 to 30 our producers, each one of them, what their personality is and how they need to be coached. That's super important to be able to do that. And then that's one of the big reasons why we went to the 2 sales teams as well. Our inside team, they talk to customers, they do service work. They're different personalities than our outside team that just works leads and calls out on leads and takes live transfers all day long. They're totally different people. Most agencies in my 28 years that I've talked to tend to have that hybrid approach where, half the time they're doing leads, half the time they're doing service work. That's one of the big reasons why we separated those, because most people, I don't know if we've ever met one that's really good at both. And so really having that defined role that they're going to do what fits their personality all day long instead of just part of the day is huge.
Yeah. And I think that's really good. I know, Kristen, you had mentioned Tamara and Jeremy, you had just mentioned really understanding the assessment. If you're listening now and you would love to find out and I guess have help more on understanding the assessment in your account through the help tab, you can schedule an assessment training with our team. So if you're listening to this and you're like, man, that's a great idea, I need to better understand the assessment, take that action. It's just in the account, or feel free, to chat in, and I'm sure the team will schedule something too with you as well. But we did receive another audience question here from Karen Lyles. So Karen, hope you're doing well. But Jeremy and Kristen, she had asked if you would mind sharing the job descriptions and expectations for the different positions in the agency. Is that information you guys would be?
Yeah, for sure. You can probably do that better than we can. I'm sure you have access to our account. Feel free anybody's always welcome to duplicate, replicate ours, whatever they want to take from it, for sure.
Perfect. All right. And Karen says thank you. So I'm sure she obviously appreciates it. I'm sure others will too. So once they have applied to the position, they go through the assessment, and then, of course, Brandy has communicated with them, excuse me. What happens after the assessment? I think a lot of agents out there, they may not have a process of interviewing that works for them. And through the success spotlights we've done, we've heard some pretty unique things. We heard Drew Hodgson, he takes people out to dinner. We heard Jason Kilgore go through some role play situations. Yeah, Drew takes them out to dinner for the final interview. And then
Jason, we introduced Drew to IdealTraits too.
Yeah, I think Drew's a good friend of ours.
Yeah, we like him a lot.
Yeah, so next step is, one thing that's just been absolutely huge for us is the video interview with IdealTraits. I literally every night I'm sitting on my couch watching TV, hanging out, relaxing, and I'll just see did we get any more video interviews, and you can just watch them.
It is pretty fun.
It's fun to watch them. It's super quick. That eliminates so much time for us. You can tell within 30 seconds if this person is going to be a good fit, and so it saves you from doing an interview with them if you already know. So video interview, if you don't have that on your account, to me, it's been one of the best additions ever for IdealTraits.
Well, and what are some of the things that we look for in the video? Like, I know for me, like, there's some times where we're watching it together and I'm like, that's how they showed up. Yeah. For they'll look like they're sitting on their bed, their hair is all messed up.
They got a baseball cap on backwards. All those things are going to tell you, did they really prepare? Do they really care? So the video interview, and then Brandy, if we like them, she'll usually get them on for 5 or 10 minutes, just do a pre-screen, and then we would interview. And we usually do it as a group. If it's for the outside team, it would be Kristen and I and Trevor, who manages that team. If it's for the inside team, we just Ryan would sit in on that one, and all three of us just kind of ask them questions and do a formal interview at that point.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. All right, cool. And then do you guys, for your remote team, once they're hired, I guess this is a little bit off topic, but it kind of just came into my brain. But for your remote team, bringing them to making sure they still feel as if they're a part of that team. Is there anything specific that you guys do, team meetings or regular events or anything that still makes people feel as if they're, again, a part of that team? Is there anything specific you do there?
All of the above. Yes. That's something that we work on every single day, is making sure that our remote team feels a part of a team, a part of something. It starts with a daily team meeting. In fact, ours starts in 2 minutes. We'll have Cameron run that today. We never miss a day. We get them together, not just to constantly talk about insurance sales and go get more sales and here's how you close. It's really that culture piece, just getting everybody together. Also, we bring our remote team up about once a quarter. They can fly up here for 2 or 3 days. Again, that's not so much about you got to come up here and train. It's about feel like you're a part of something. So I factor that into the finances and the budget. When I am hiring remote, I know that I've got to bring them up. That's going to pay off for you, because when they feel like they're a part of something bigger, they'll stay a lot longer. So we work on that a ton. Yeah.
And there's some other things that we do that I think are really beneficial. I have, like, on the outside team, just a chat group with just the women on the outside team. We call it the Pearson Focused Women of the Outside Team. And I'm trying to get them to feel like they've got that community, because sometimes I was noticing some of the remote workers and some of the women remote workers were isolating themselves a little bit. They were a little bit shyer about participating in the chat. So I just made that group a little smaller and made it an affinity group, because I thought that was something that would benefit them. They seem to love that. The other thing that we do sometimes is we'll just open up our Zoom room and say, Zoom room's open. Anybody stop by, we'll be open for a half an hour. And people just pop in and pop off. And that gives them a touch with Jeremy and I. I know that their managers also do that from time to time. And people absolutely love that. And we love communicating with them. We do a lot of stuff on chat where we're rallying the team. People are reporting their numbers throughout the day. Sometimes we're putting jokes in the chat, just keeping people together and keeping the conversation going, and having a little bit of fun. Goes a long way, and we can tell who's participating and who's not participating. We're always looking at that as well, just because we want to make sure that people feel like they are connected. I know when I first start coaching anybody that's remote, one of the first questions I ask them is, who have you made friends with here? Because that will tell me whether they feel connected into the agency or not. And when they haven't made friends, or haven't, we'll do like breakout rooms and stuff like that so that they can get to know each other. But if they haven't made friends, that's not a good sign, honestly.
Yeah, and then another thing that we added probably about a year and a half ago is our mentorship program. We started it really for remote, but now we do it for in-office as well. So we have 3 or 4 people on our team that have been with us for a number of years that we know completely follow the process. They do things the right way, and we really trust them as coaches and mentors. And so when we hire somebody, we assign them one of those 3 or 4 people, and they're with them for usually 3 or 4 weeks. It would be they're on Zoom with them all day long, not always on video. Sometimes they turn it on, sometimes off, but they are with them as a partner for the whole day for 3 or 4 weeks. That has been really a big impact for the agency and people staying on board and being trained the right way. I pay the person doing the mentoring $1,000 for a month for mentoring somebody. So very inexpensive for what I get. You think about it, if I had to go hire somebody and their sole job was to watch somebody every month that I hired somebody, that'd be a very expensive position versus the mentor loves it. They get an extra $1,000. It's inexpensive compared to hiring somebody for that role.
And it doesn't take away from their sales.
Yeah, and we've actually found that it helps their sales because they know they have to be on their A game the whole time to do things the right way. They can't take shortcuts. So
yeah, they just work side by side. They're not, I wouldn't say they're spending their whole day talking, but they do meet like in the morning, in the afternoon, and then that mentor will report back to the manager just what's going on with that team member. And, they're just showing them the ropes. And that's very normal in a lot of times, like outside sales roles. You'll see that in other companies. But I think that shadowing and just having someone as a resource to them makes a huge difference. And then the other thing that I will say is that we have resources. That is the biggest gap in most agencies is you onboard someone and then you don't have ongoing resources for your team members besides go search it on Gateway. If you're on with Allstate, go search it on your company website. And we have something we call the new staff helpline. And it literally is just a Zoom chat that has some of our trusted resources in there. It has Jeremy, Ryan, me, Tony, who's been with Allstate for 30 years. I mean, this is her whole career. She's very knowledgeable. She's on customer service, all our customer service staff that have been with us. And so if they have any kind of like underwriting questions or in the moment questions with people that are on the phone, I can't get this to work in the system, or can we do this? They'll put that in the new staff helpline and have those immediate responses, have somebody Zoom them if they need to. But that is huge for remote team members because they know that they have multiple places they can go.
Yeah, perfect. And I would love to talk a little bit more about that because I think also too, retaining good employees, especially after you've hired them, is a big challenge, right? Because it can sometimes lead to immediate turnover. But we did receive an audience question in regards to the video. So I'll just read the question. Is there anything special they do to get applicants more inclined to do the video interview? We often get people doing the assessment, not complete the video interview, despite us pre-screening them and explaining the video interview process. So anything specific other than calling or texting them that you're doing as a part of to get them to complete the video interview?
I mean, I think that really that initial phone call from Brandy is what gets that. She spends a minute talking about that specifically. I
would say just make it exciting, and tell them that you can't move forward in the process unless they complete the assessment and the video. And so you'll be looking for that. But if they're not completing it, I would make it more exciting. Like we have a really cool process that we use. It makes it so that you know that you're in the right place. First thing is the assessment. That just gives you a personality like sales leader or closer. We'll share that with you in the interview. But it's really cool just to know yourself and know, what propels you forward in a career like this. And then the next thing, we have a video interview. We have 3 simple questions that we ask. We just require that to get you to the next step in the process. So we really look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, makes sense. Perfect.
Yep.
And then There was another question here about passively hiring. So is passively hiring, I mean, I know you guys may have touched on it a little bit, but something that you're always looking to do, always recommend, or is it more of a we hire when we need to type of situation?
Yeah, and I would say that is something I'm guilty of for sure over my career. Early on was just hiring when I absolutely needed somebody. We don't need anybody right now. We're producing what we want to produce, but we interview, we hire weekly. We are always recruiting. I always have my ads sponsored, always have them running, despite not needing anyone. I think that does a couple of things. First of all, it shows your team that you're always hiring. So they're going to be, on their A game. Like I said a few minutes ago, they're going to know that they could be replaced if they're not producing and performing. So showing them that we're always hiring, and then just having that bench. We can now be so picky, which is really all of our goal, is to get to a point when we can be extremely picky and only take the best. That's going to help a lot with turnover, because you're not going for that person. Man, I need somebody today. I don't know. There were a few red flags, but I think I'll try them because I really am desperate and need somebody. You eliminate that by always recruiting.
Yeah, makes sense. Awesome. Perfect. I think it's a really great explanation, because I think a lot of times hiring is viewed as very transactional, right? And very reactive, but it should be, more of something that is done passively. So then you don't put yourself in a vulnerable state, which of course is being reactive. But I did want to jump back to what we were talking about before with the training and support. So, of course, Kristen, you had mentioned how important that is. So if you wanted to speak on, sort of the training, the onboarding, and the support that is provided beyond what you had already explained, I think that would really help people get an idea of what they could begin to provide for their new employees as they come on.
Yeah, well, I mean, for us, we have an onboarding process for each side of the business. So the inside team and the outside team. And usually it takes 3 to 4 weeks, just depending on how fast they get through it. The Allstate training, we have to do that. That usually takes about 3 to 4 days at this point.
Sure.
And then we have our team members take a deeper dive on systems and processes, and Cameron does that. So he does more operational things, making sure that they're logged into Zoom and understand that, all the, passwords, understand the phone system, understand like the reporting that we have. We have our own team website. So there's reporting that we require from everybody. So he explains like those metrics and what they need to do. And then he takes a deeper dive on products, because he just feels like, it's kind of hard to get everything, the context of everything and conceptualize stuff. So he'll go on Zillow and show homes and show like searches and just get a little bit deeper into what they'll be seeing when they're actually quoting, and showing them some things that they should know there. And then we have, of course, RPOA. So we use RPOA. The whole reason why we started it is we wanted to show people how we trained people in our agency. And it's been something that's actually given us a ton of lift, having everything organized in a library. So we have a new team member category that we have on RPOA that we have our team members go through. They role play, and they have to get through that whole category and memorize our sales process. And there's a lot of role play back and forth that we pair people up, and we mentor them with that. And then we show them how it comes all together with the system. So how do you memorize these talk paths, but how does that work when you're actually trying to quote in the system? And so then Trevor, the manager, or Ryan will show them how to quote and talk together, and then they're off and running on the phones.
Yeah, and I would say that's a philosophy that we've learned over the years to do, is really pour into them at the beginning. I know, again, I keep talking about all my mistakes, but I've made a lot of them over the years. And that was certainly one of them. I totally get it. We hire somebody, oh my gosh, they're on payroll. We're writing them a check. We better get some production out of them day one. Like, bring all your friends and family's deck sheets and start calling day one. We do not do that. Our producers write 0 items month 1, 0, because I want them focusing on training, the talk paths. I want them knowing the products. That 1 month is going to make it so that they can operate at 100% for the rest of their career, versus we used to, bring your deck sheets, call, we need sales, you're on payroll, we need you to pay for yourself, get some sales month 1. What we found is they would miss a lot of the knowledge and a lot of the core stuff that they need to do this job. And so for the rest of their career, they were operating at 60 or 70% versus taking that focus time. Yes, it's a month of payroll with no production, but they're going to operate long-term at 100%. That's been a real important part of our hiring.
Yeah, I think that they get like antsy to get on the phones, and that's a good thing. Like I remember that, well, actually, we just have a gal that just started a month ago, and she just got on the phones last week. And just when she first started, I can't wait to get on the phones. I can't wait to get on the phones. And I'm like, that's a good thing. You got to wait, but feeling like, you know, you're excited about it and that, you know, you have to pass a certain series of things before you do it. It just builds. And then those are usually the ones that are really good, is when they're saying stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have, we have 3 new employees starting on Monday, and that's always the first conversation I have with them. Hey, these next couple of weeks of training, it's going to be really easy to want to jump ahead, right? And to get anxious with it. So it's just important to kind of sit there, wait for the training, and you'll be better off because of it. So I think it's a great point. And I know, Kristen, you had mentioned RPOA. So for those listening, if you haven't heard of role play at the Olson agency, the process and the execution that both Kristen and Jeremy have done has started a training program that you are able to participate in. So in your IdealTraits account, IdealTraits is happy to have them in the preferred partner section. But Kristen, Jeremy, is there anyone specific that they should reach out to if they have questions or want to reach maybe Amanda or either of you about RPOA?
Yeah, I would say Amanda, which is just Amanda@insuranceroleplay.com.
Perfect.
She's awesome. We always say she talks about us better than we talk about ourselves.
Fantastic. And then we have one more audience question here that we'll get to. What do you do if you have a great candidate but don't need one just yet? How do you keep them in the waiting room until you have a spot to fill?
Yeah, I would say, I know I mentioned the word bench earlier, but I would say I hire them. If I have an A player come through the door, I don't care how many people I have on the team. I will find a spot for them. The way that we're all paid now, which is more on new business, versus in the past it was heavy on renewal. People can really pay for themselves a lot earlier than they used to. So I would always find a spot for them, especially on the outside team working leads. All that's going to do is lead to your bottom line production going up. Inside team is a little bit different. We staff that team around how many incoming call opportunities come in every day. So if I have too many people on that, they're not going to have enough customers to talk to. So the inside team is a little bit different. We would not keep hiring on that. If we found an amazing one, we'd probably refer them to a great friend or something like that.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Awesome. Well, as we work to wrap up here, the last question that I ask on every Success Spotlight is just the one thing out of, I guess, I know we've discussed a lot here, but the one thing that you recommend that every agent starts implementing into their hiring process today, if they're not already doing it. So feel free to just give one answer or individually if you both want to, but the one thing that you would recommend that everyone start doing as soon as they get off this call to start seeing better results than they're hiring.
Yeah, a couple things I was going to say there. First of all, always be hiring. I know every book says that, but you truly have to live that. We don't need anybody, but when we get off this call, I will log in how many came in, in the past hour. I'm always looking at that. So that's number one. And then number two is being open to remote. I see a lot of agents kind of fight that, and it's been absolutely crucial to our increased production over the last few years. If you would have asked me 5 years ago if I would be in different states, I would have thought, no way would I do that. How could you manage that? But being able to pull from a pool of 50 states versus one, just the quality that we have on our team has skyrocketed. And I see a few questions on a remote. We treat our remote people exactly the same. They have the exact same role, the exact same pay as everybody else. Some are on the inside team talking to customers, some are on the outside team working leads, but they do the same role. We don't pay them commission only. We don't, have a different comp plan for them. They're exactly the same as though they were in the office. But being open to remote can literally change your agency. And if you have a volume problem, that will fix it overnight. That's why every morning I walk in 15 or 20 new applicants every single day. If anybody needs to hire people, you can hire people if you're open to remote.
Yeah, and then I would say that first touch, you need to make it exciting. You have to realize that you're interviewing them, but they're also interviewing you. And if they're really good, they're going to be looking for cues that you're going to be managing, the business well and things like that. So really show up for that first call and really talk up the assessment so that they can see that you've got things like really locked down. And then the other thing is, don't expect miracles. I feel like a lot of times people think, I hired a sales leader and they didn't work out. Like, there's more to it than the assessment. The assessment gets them in the door and gets you interested in them to see where they would fit in your business, but interview them and see, how, like, ask them the difficult questions and things, and don't be like, clouded by like what the title of that assessment says. The real, proof is in when they show up on their first day of work and how they really show up. You're never going to be able to interview enough for that. We've had so many that we thought were going to be great, and they showed up at work and they didn't show up like they showed up in the interview. And that's just going to happen. So be realistic and know that there's like definitely a lot of things that happen that don't work out with hiring. And so that's why you've got to have the volume. You've got to be talking to people all the time. You can never predict what is going to happen. And I think if you've been in business long enough, you would all agree with that. But the only way to solve for that is to always be hiring.
And then I see Karen's question about comp and daily expectations. We have that all over the RPOA Facebook page. But if you're not a member, Karen, happy to chat with you. Send me a message. Always happy to share. One last thing I just wanted to mention, anytime we are talking recruiting or hiring, that has really helped us. We're talking a lot on this webinar about how to protect people staying with us and not having turnover. One big thing that we do at the end of the interview cycle, if we believe that we're going to offer them a job, right at the end, we ask them to send us, we call it the paragraph. So when they leave, either it's on Zoom or it's in person, I make it very brief intentionally. I will just say, hey, Nolan, one thing that we ask candidates to do when you leave here, when you get back home, just send us a quick paragraph of why you think you would like this position, why you think you would be good at it, and why you think you'd fit in here. And I just keep it very brief. And that really tells us a lot. The good candidates we find, they literally go out to their car and send it from their car. That tells us how much they want the job. Number two, it tells us how good their grammar is. So if somebody sends us a paragraph, because remember, they're going to be communicating with customers and prospects. If they send us a paragraph that has a bunch of typos, they left out, commas and didn't capitalize and things like that, they're out, because we can't have that facing our customers. So that's been a huge thing. The paragraph, implement it.
That is good.
You'll save yourself some candidates.
There's so many good ones. We couldn't do one, Nolan. Sorry about that.
No, that's all terrific stuff. And I think that's really funny. Like the ones that get to the car, it's almost like you're timing them to see how long it takes them, But I think that's great. And we found what makes, the unique part about your interview process, right? It may not, Drew, he's taking them to dinner and paying for the dinner with their spouse, but I think the paragraph is also very effective and a very cool thing that you guys have implemented. But a couple of important things that were noted here. Kristen and Jeremy had mentioned that they have Brandy on their team who handles the communication with the candidates. If you feel as if you don't have the ability to do that, or you don't have a dedicated person at your office, reach out to us here at IdealTraits, inquire about the virtual hiring assistant program, because that can sort of substitute maybe not having the ability to have that dedicated person like Kristen and Jeremy have.
Mm-hmm.
Next is the RPOA. So as Jeremy mentioned, reach out to Amanda at insuranceroleplay.com. I've been with IdealTraits for 5.5 years, going on 6 here soon. And over that time, I have never heard anyone say anything but good things about both of these two individually, but then also their training program too as well. So if you're struggling with the training, need some help, need some guidance, reach out to them, reach out to Amanda, or feel free to just reach out through your account in the preferred partner section. But Jeremy, Kristen, I appreciate you so much for taking, now just over an hour out of your day today and some time yesterday to be here on Success Spotlight. The session that you provided was fantastic. And I think there's a lot of good information here that people can begin implementing. So I can't thank you enough for your time. And I look forward to following up with you guys soon. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, appreciate everybody. taking time this morning to watch. Any
Yep.
questions, certainly reach out to us.
The little clapping hands, they look like real hands.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.